Hello and welcome to this art Simracing recap of the Team Happy Life Factory 6 hours of Red Bull Ring. This race is a multi-class race between LMP2s, GT3s and the Mazda MX-5s. The ART Simracing Dallara LMP2 starts from pole and takes the green flag. We are racing here in Austria. As the cars come through turn 1, it's the 55 ART Simracing LMP2 in the lead, followed by the 7 Year 1 LMP2 and the Team Happy Life Factory 999. The 7 and 999 battle each other for P2 coming into turn 2. They would continue to do so for a few laps, giving Ricciardo the opportunity to make a gap. In lap 4, the 55 would encounter its first bit of bad luck, as two Mazdas and a GT3 would block the road in front of him. The GT3 coming out of the pits kept the same speed as the Mazdas, forming a roadblock. The 55 manages to find a gap and go through, but the loss of time is clearly visible. Meanwhile, the LMP2 runners caught up and a big crash followed. The 999 manages to make quick use of the access road, but the 7 is boxed in behind the Mazdas. The 77 brakes too late and hits the 7, causing a big collision. This causes Team Happy Life Factory to take the second and third place in the race. Coming up to the first pit stop, the 55 would encounter its second strand of bad luck, as the car did not make a safe pit entry. This would cost the 55 45 seconds of penalty, resulting in a drop to third place, 20 seconds behind the leader, the 999 Team Happy Life Factory LMP2. We'll make it double. On lap 35, the 55 would make contact with the 333 FSD Simracing and the car number 25 Year 1 Mazda MX-5, resulting in terminal damage to the 55. From the onboard you can see that the 55 is alongside the 333 coming out of the corner. The 26 moves over to the right side and the 55 lines up to pass the Mazda on the left side. However, the 333 turns in to take the same line as the 55. This resulted in a crash damaging all three cars. In hindsight, the 55 could have avoided this crash by waiting a bit. There was no time to sulk, however, as there was still 5 hours of racing left. The 5 rejoined the track 1 3/4 of a lap behind the LMP2 leader after a tow and a quick fast repair from the ART Simracing pit crew. Ricciardo started to close the gap, and after the pit stop in lap 65, the ART Simracing LMP2 was back into the lead lap, just barely in front of the leading 999. However, because we towed, we were now off sync, so we still had to do our tire change next pit stop. This meant Ricciardo had to keep pushing to close the gap. On lap 94 we would see the first driver swap as Seppe took over control of the 55. Seppe would rejoin the track in P4 behind the 997 Wolf Simracing Lupus. Ricciardo managed to keep the car in the lead lap despite having to change tyres. It was now up to Seppe to keep the car in the lead lap and close the gap towards the front of the field. However, luck was not on Seppe's side as he made a mistake lapping the 117 Team Happy Life Austria GT3 coming into turn 3. Seppe was nowhere near alongside when he made the dive into the corner, trying to pass the 117. Contact was made and the 117 was damaged and sent into the gravel trap. Despite the 55 having the structural integrity of a sandcastle, it managed to remain unscathed and Seppe would continue his way trying to get into a rhythm. On lap 15, Seppe had to take the 55 through the pits after the ART Simracing LMP2 had registered 40 incident points. Although Ricciardo had made the majority of these incidents, it was up to Seppe to take the slow crawl through the pit lane, setting him back 22 seconds. Sepp rejoined the track right in front of the 999 LP2 leader and would keep the gap the same until his pit stop. On lap 24 we would see the final driver swap on board the 55 as Ricciardo took over from Sepp. With 1.5 laps behind the LP2 leader, his mission was clear. Close the gap, overtake the leader and then close the gap some more. It was closed quickly, but passing the 999 would prove a real challenge as the 999 defended really hard. Being a lap down, Ricciardo had to take extra caution in lapping himself as fighting hard whilst unlapping is not done. Ricciardo decided to await his opportunity, and on lap 143 this opportunity came when Ricciardo had a better exit out of turn 1. He could now line up the car for a pass into turn 2. The loss of traction, however, on the inside coming out of turn 2 meant the 999 would stick alongside going into turn 3. However, Ricciardo was on the inside of turn 3 and made a pass. The 117 almost blocked Ricciardo coming out of turn 3, but he managed to swoop past and drive away from the 999. Ricciardo pushed hard to close the gap from 80 seconds in lap 143 to 70 seconds in lap 163. The gap shrunk to 10 seconds in lap 177 when the 999 made a pit stop without tires. The 55 still had to make a pit stop and change tires, so they had to give it all they had to keep in front and keep in the lead lap after their pit stop. During this charge, however, Ricciardo had a big scare on lap 170 when the 98 and 13 made contact right in front of him. Ricciardo barely managed to keep the car out of the rear bumper of the 98, but valuable time was lost. As Ricciardo pulled away from his pit stall after the pit stop on lap 183 and joined the racetrack right in front of the 999, he knew he had a chance to score a victory today. Ricciardo had just made his last tyre change and would keep these tyres until the end, as there were still 2.5 stints to go. The 999, however, had previously triple stinted their tyres and was now on all tyres and still had to do a tyre swap, costing them 20 seconds. This meant the ART Simracing LP2 was in a good position, but they still had to find about a second a lap to beat the 999. On lap 208, charging his way towards P1, Ricciardo drove the fastest lap of the race, 1:19.520, 0.8 of a second faster than the fastest lap of the 999. Sit back and enjoy as you watch the ART Simracing LP2 on the absolute limit. On lap 12, Ricciardo made the final full fuel pit stop. The 999 made their last pit stop a few laps ago and changed tyres. This meant both cars would only have to pit one more time for a quick splash and dash after the stop. Ricciardo made a big mistake going into the pits, however, as he lapped the 98 GT3 before entering the pits. This caught the 98 off guard and he barely managed to avoid the 55. Kudos to the 98 for this quick reaction. Ricciardo came out in front of the 999, holding on to the lead and would extend the gap to 43 seconds before the 999 would make their final last pit stop. Right after the 55 made their final pit stop, a disconnect would plague the race of the 999 and put them down one lap. Now the pressure was off for the 55 and all they had to do was finish the race. After sets of racing at the Red Bull Ring, the 55 ART Simracing Dallara LMP217 would take the checkered flag, giving ART Simracing the first endurance victory in iRacing. Ricciardo had driven the majority of the race after the crash with the 333 and the 26 on the 1 hour mark. However, without Sepper keeping the gap with the front runner stable, ART Simracing would not have been on the top step this race. In second place, the 111 Team Happy Life Worldwide LMP2 managed to pass the 999 Team Happy Life Global LMP2 for second place, putting the car that had led the most laps this race in P3 after the disconnect. The 18 Verve Racing Black Ferrari managed to keep a 3-second gap over the teammates and taking the victory in GT3 class. The 14 Verve Racing Team Fuchsia BMW took second place, followed by the 988 Wolf Motorsport Sim Racing Masomelas BMW. In the Mazda class, Year 1 put up a one-team show, and the 26 Durker powered by Year 1 Mazda MX-5 took the top step, followed by the number 1 team Year 1 Mazda MX-5, finishing one lap behind. This concludes the ART Sim Racing report of the Team Happy Life Factory 6 hours of Red Bull Ring. We hope you had fun and would like to see you next time.